Good
Hey, here
morning.
we are live. Happy New Year, Abe,
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
and Happy New Year, everyone. It's 2024 got here quick, and excited for it. But we wanted to talk about a little bit about 2023, right? And do a little recap for everybody.
Yeah. I hope everyone had a great holiday, season, and really excited to come back. 2023 was definitely a year of swings, and I know generally it felt like it was a year of difficulty, of change, of like adapting to the new market. 8% interest rates, and maybe for some of our agents as well as the agent kind of body across the nation, everyone was dealing with cuts to their business. So it's nice to kind of put an end to that year and start off in this new year. And we're really excited. So wanted to recap a few things at Circa that have happened. It was challenging for us even at Circa. We had shifts in our staff. Right, we were kind of working with agents on an individual basis and also training pretty heavily on how agents could maintain their business and even try to grow it in a market like that. And so it's kind of funny to look back on the year, Matt, and think of all the things that happened. And to know that it was a difficult year, but I felt like we got through it really well. And there's a ton to kind of celebrate. And I just think back to our Christmas party even, and just gathering everyone together, and just feeling like, you know what, we got through it together. We made it, and so
Right.
so it's really good to do that and celebrate that. I feel like you and I and our staff and probably a lot of agents too are kind of letting that propel us into this new year and being excited about what's coming. But yeah, I did want to recap a few things, even though it was tremendously difficult last year and we had a lot of headwind in the real estate industry and things were changing, lawsuits were happening, right? That looked like they were shifting everything for us. We were able to accomplish some cool things. And so last year, Circa agents as a whole, we were able to do 530 sides of transactions, which was a pretty remarkable thing. Given that we're a new company, given that there's a lot of change, given that the market posed a lot of uncertainty,
Right.
that kind of tabulated to was $480+ million in sales volume. And so I think when you and I, Matt, went over these numbers at the end of the year, we were like, when did that happen? How did that happen? But we thought it was kind of a remarkable thing to be able to see that and to see our agents still find ways to thrive and do meaningful business in this market. So I thought that was a really great way to kind of cap the year and think about what can we do in that probably the hardest year we faced in a long time. What can we do moving forward? And so really looking forward to the next year. And again, it's a couple of the things that we did last year that we felt really good about and really proud about as we, saw kind of the writing on the wall, as COVID was happening and realized that maybe people in California would look to other states and other like neighborhoods outside of California to relocate to. And so really proud of what we did with our cultural connect trips. We took trips to Texas and Tennessee, and again looked at data, looked at migration patterns, and saw that, hey, a lot of people from California were moving out of state, and the places that they were looking the most was Austin, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, and then also Las Vegas, which is coming up pretty soon for us in terms of a trip. But we did that. I feel again we did a pretty good job training through kind of the hardship and the changing market, and kudos to you for putting on some, in my opinion, and I may be biased, maybe not, but I feel like you put out some really world-class training for our agents and help guide them through difficult situations on how to gain more business even in a challenging market. And I think the overall message was like, be a good human, right? And be excellent at what you do. And I think those went really, really, really well. And We did a lot of deal workouts last year. A lot of escrows were not easy.
Right.
We got a lot of calls from agents, in sticky situations, fallout, interest rates rising, and all of a sudden the house not being affordable anymore, and navigating those things. And I feel like we've navigated them fairly well. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to add real quick, just kind of a shout out to our agents, just in the sense of the resilience they had. Some of them were down in their business, and the way they came together. A lot of them really supported each other. A lot of organic kind of, we tried to do all we could to make sure people didn't feel alone. But I think the agents themselves really did bond well together. A lot of great friendships we've seen formed. A lot of and just a lot of support, not a lot of defensiveness where there was a lot of egos being bruised by business being down. It was just more like people being open and honest about their business, not commiserating and complaining, but more like, hey, I'm struggling here. Can you help me? Can we get together? Can we do some accountability together? Just a lot of that we saw. And I just, and a lot of some agents that stepped up and did some just trainings on their own without our involvement at all to help people. So I just think that was really, meaningful to me to see that happen, because I think that's, part of the culture we've really championed and sought after with the people we bring aboard and the people we task with asking them to kind of help out in those ways, right? So I just think it's just been a real remarkable kind of ecosystem that's developed there with the Circa team and the agents there. So just want to give that praise to those people that were either on either side of that, the people who were brave enough to ask for help and had that kind of just, hey, here's who I am. I need some help. I'm struggling a little bit. And the people that stepped in to help them and were there for them. So I just think that was really awesome to see. For sure.
Absolutely. I just think back to people like door knocking together, getting together to do call nights, and championing those things. And that's probably the thing I personally feel the most proud about is the people we have at Circa, the quality of people we have, and then just the culture that has brought together. And I know a lot of companies talk about culture. I've been part of other companies, and culture was a big deal. Worked hard at creating culture, but I just feel like you really see kind of the true like goodness of people shine when things are really difficult, and things aren't going everyone's way. And I feel like we at Circa, the agents at Circa, the staff at Circa really passed that test. So again, kudos to the agents. Kudos to you, Matt, also for leading us through, a difficult time, with a lot of things kind of happening. And so yeah, 2023, not the greatest year overall, but I think for Circa, it when we look back, we can celebrate it. And it was a really great year for us.
Absolutely. No, a lot of great times. And I mean, it's not just about the numbers, but I think we did, I've done, I was looking at numbers a lot, and we did definitely, outperform most of the, people that we see around us, office wise and brokerage wise, when it came to maintaining our numbers, right, and not dipping as much, and then some growth. So I mean, I think it's nice to look at benchmarks. I don't like to compare ourselves to other people, but just looking at benchmarks, you want to see hey, how did the industry do? How did we do? To see how we're doing, and we did really well there, especially on the per agent production side of things. I mean, we have a really strong there. So I just really couldn't be happier about such a hard year. You know what I mean? Definitely you can't say it was a happy year all around, but it was definitely relative to what it could have been. I'm very happy with the results. So
yeah, and another way I look at it is, hey, if we're able to accomplish this in maybe the hardest year in a couple of decades, I'm super excited for what's going to happen when the market turns even a little towards our favor. And so I know we wanted to get into that a little bit. And generally, I think our sense is, hey, 2024, brand new year of the wooden dragon. If you're into the lunar calendar, that it's going to be a different year. Retrograde is over as of I think January 1st or whatnot. I don't know if follow like that. It seems like all the things that were whatever you believe, pointing to negative signs, that this is kind of a year of turning all that around and it being a very positive year. So super excited. But Matt, what do you think? I mean, 2024. What can we expect in our industry? What do you think some of the trends are?
Yeah, well, I think that the two biggest things I as far as like not necessarily economically related, right, but just sort of lifestyle related, I think that are going to affect 2024 is first is just how much real pent up sort of seller side demand, so to speak, or seller side inventory there is, how pent up inventory, right? How much people that have just holding as long as they could to move from where they are, right? Like meaning we really need to move. We're bursting at the seams with growing family, or the house is too big for us. We need something smaller. We need a one story. We need to move closer to our family or whatever it might be, right? So that kind of pent up, if that kind of has a spring in sales for this year, from 2023, where people just were really kind of waiting and seeing, and also felt it just wasn't like the right time to do it based on interest rates and that sort of thing. That was one. Um, and then two would be, I think, the remote work trend, how that continues, because there's a study that's saying that basically, I think, based on the numbers, that it could be as much as 14 million new remote work jobs, or that are not created but like transitioned, right, to 14 million more by 2025. And so that's about double what it is now, I guess, a little bit less than double. So that's pretty significant. And I think if you would presume that would, one, empower people that have an existing job in a high cost market, high cost of living market, that if their job transitions to fully remote, then that would empower them to have options where they might move, where cost of living might be better. And then two, if it's a new job created, I'm assuming most employers will create those jobs in areas where it's a more employer friendly climate, right? And then two, lower cost of living, so they can pay that job a little bit less, right? I mean, it just makes sense from a company to want to pay. So I would just think that would favor lower cost of living areas in general for migration patterns. I know that the largest group cohort of work remote people are going to be 25 to 34. So that means young people, as they're getting out of college and kind of getting settled in that household creation, they're getting married, starting to have kids. Those groups, you would think, are more likely to, one, adopt remote work, and two, that's where they're going to be starting their careers out in where they can feel more secure in the long term of that remote work. Because for a lot of people who've always worked in an office, remote work in itself can feel very insecure, in the sense of like, how do I know like it's not going to be, I have to call back next week if they're going to say we're all coming back? Or how do I know they're not going to get rid of my job and put someone they pay less, in Arizona or somewhere else, right? So I think it feels very insecure. But for people that are kind of being born into this workforce, right, with remote work, they're more likely to probably feel like secure for the long term, to be able to want to buy a house and be able to do that, thinking I can remote work and feel a little more like I can do that. So I just think that will definitely, I think, allow for more affordability for people to find work. I mean, to find homes elsewhere other than like high expensive markets, and we have those in California, right? So it's going to affect us. You have Southern California, the Bay Area. The largest segments of remote work are IT and healthcare. Actually, healthcare is actually leading the way by far with remote work. Telemedicine. A lot of, I'm sure everybody listening here and you probably have done a telemedicine appointment by now, where you just meet with the doctor online. So there's a lot of changes there, and then accounting is the number one job opening for remote work right now. So if you work in accounting, I think when you have like a results-based work, where it's not like you feel like you have to have some management watching somebody, right? Like it's based on like, hey, we know benchmarks. We know you should be able to do this many tax returns in this many hours. You should be able to, computer program this many, lines of code in this many. Those kind of things that are very measurable. I think remote work is going to just make sense, right? But I think in some places where you need collaboration and people around each other to feel like more synergy between job functions, that might stay in the office, right? So I don't know. Anyhow, but point is, I just think that's going to really dictate a lot of what happens in 2024, as far as migration patterns, people moving out of expensive markets into lower price markets, and then young people deciding like, hey, we're not going to rent here. We're going to actually go buy somewhere else or rent somewhere else until we get settled, and then buy somewhere else. But they might as well move their life now and start enjoying. Even if they're renting, they might still move to lower cost markets. So that's my thought on that. So those are the two like non-recession, non-interest rate discussions, just about because I think the other stuff's very speculative, but I think those two things, as far as pent up, seller, what do you call it, inventory, and then the remote work, I think are two kind of tangible things we can think about, like as far as for next year?
Yeah, and the remote work trend, I think we've been seeing it in COVID, and maybe us more than other states in some ways. Maybe New York has seen it as well, but high cost areas have already seen a migration pattern out of our state, of our area, into areas that maybe have better, state tax kind of.
Right.
Or even lower cost of living at the very least, right?
Yeah.
And we did this, right? We asked ChatGPT where we think over the next 10 years the hottest real estate markets are going to be, and a lot of them were not in California actually.
Right.
The top three I think we saw were they were Nashville, Tennessee, still Austin, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia when we asked. So I think it's a thing that I think will continue to trend that way. And so what does that mean for us real estate agents? It's, hey, inventory may come online because of that, and what you said, there's pent up kind of demand because people didn't want an 8% interest rate last year, right? They were willing to hold off and maybe live, like say you're a growing family and you had your second child, but you're in a 2-bedroom condo or something like that, that you're
Right.
willing to wait a little bit to see what happens with the market. What we're hoping this year is that, hey, the waiting stops and that people kind of find, the interest rate a little better to start thinking about housing and making a purchase. But I also do think, affordability right now is still kind of really tough for people, especially here in California. And I get this question asked a lot, and I know you do too, Matt. Is the price, what do you guys think? Will it go up? Will it go down? Is this year, is there going to be a correction? Is it a bubble? Is it going to burst? All that.
Right.
And again, it's very speculative, but I do see, even in my area where I live in the South Bay, homes being listed, prices that maybe 2 years ago they were able to get, but having now to do price reductions to get it sold. And so, my neighbor just sold a house after reducing his price, something like 15% of his listing price. And then it finally got sold. And so it's going to happen. Why? They're going to see a number posted where, hey, 20% reduction in price across the nation. I'm not sure. Again, I don't want to speculate those things, but I think in real time, we see it in some markets, and in some markets we don't. We still see it hot. Like a great house comes out and, Fullerton or Irvine or something like that, and you still have 30 offers on it and it going above list, right? And so I'm not sure if that's like something we should sit and wait and speculate on, but having a really honest discussion with a client, asking them what their budget is for a home, irregardless of what they could qualify for a loan. Like, what is the lifestyle you want to lead, and does that mean that you make a purchase here in California, or does that mean you make a purchase somewhere outside of the state? It's a conversation I think it's going to come up more and more, and it already has been, right? So yeah, and it sounds like, based on what you're saying, Matt, that it's going to be more and more prevalent over the next few years at the very least, and maybe even into the foreseeable future as work changes and the nature of work changes, and as jobs, companies have already relocated outside of California in the last 10 years, let's say, in pretty big numbers, and companies also are looking for states that are a lot more friendly in terms of their law and their taxation, right, to set up their headquarters in. So I think we will see that trend. And, there's kind of a macro thing here for me too, Matt. And I don't know if it's just me with a tinfoil hat on, but I do sense that, the internet is still relatively new to us, right? It's
Right.
a couple decades, right? Where we've gotten mass adoption on it. I remember, myself in the late 90s, having access to AOL and dial-up, right? And then in 2000s, in the college years, having access to high-speed internet and being like, wow, this is amazing, right? And then now, 2024, almost every household has high-speed internet, heavily relying on it. When a company gets hacked, it's a big thing, right? It affects all kinds of things. We recently had some hacks happen in our industry where transactions could not get closed out, right? And so the rise of the internet in our industry has been so quick, right? And so many things are changing as a result. So I can only imagine as the decades go on, what that means for remote work, what that means for teams and how they interact. We're using a YouTube stream right now to talk to our agents versus meeting in person, probably like we would a couple of years ago. So yeah, I'm really intrigued by this, and I think I don't know if it's going to be an exponential kind of change that happens, but I think the more and more we go into the future, there will be changes here that people are going to have to adapt to. Remote work being one of them, and again, for us in the industry, being able to see kind of the writing on the wall or kind of feel the wind in that, and prepare ourselves in the right way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've already seen that we've had outsourcing, so to speak, offshoring, as you say, for many years now, right? And you saw, like you were mentioning, the headquarters, people changing, states for incentives, better business climate, lower cost of living for paying employees, that kind of stuff. And so now it's just, and you saw, I think we saw last year the first cities incentivizing remote workers to come move there, right? Like, hey, come move to our city as a remote worker, and we've got these benefits and incentives for you. So I think that, like, just like they used to, try to incentivize and attract and court big companies to move their headquarters there, there's gonna be places wanting to say, hey, come live in our community. We're like a remote work community. We've got, like, redundancy in our internet servers, so your internet will never go down in this community, right? Because that's, all sorts of things to try to figure out how do we create the best communities around remote work. That's going to start happening, I'm sure, to some degree soon. So yeah, I think if you look at just the, if you say I'm making a bet on remote work increasing, what you're saying is I'm making a bet that companies want to be more profitable and cut costs, right? I'm making a bet that that there's technology that's going to increase to empower that, meaning no one was thinking of developing technology for remote work 3 years ago, right? 3 years ago today, there was a company called Zoom that had no idea how it was about to happen to it, right? And so, there's a lot of telecom stuff, but they're tele streaming, type stuff, but yeah, it's like everybody knows, okay, now we can raise money and build companies around this. So I would say that just like AI is kind of taking the world by storm, I think that the possibilities with remote work, empowering software will be kind of a new area of venture, and it already is. So yeah, I think that, it's definitely, I think, here to stay, and to what degree it's adopted, I think we don't know. Those will play out, but I think it's definitely going to be here to stay. And yeah, I think it will definitely affect moving migration patterns.
Maybe we can talk about interest rate a little bit too. Yeah, last year, October, we hit 8%, and that was pretty alarming for, I think, a lot of people. And
right.
We probably saw the slowest months in terms of even our sales transactions happening around that time. And today, we're in the mid to low sixes, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I know you and I don't like to predict what's going to happen with the interest rate, although if we had a bet on it, if you like kind of like needled us, yeah, we have some thoughts on it. But what do you think the impact is now that we're from the 8%, the high 7% down to like the 6.5%, 6.25% range? How do you think that affects us this coming year?
Yeah, well, I think that it could be the seasonality of what happened when the rates went down, right? They went down kind of just before the holidays, but I haven't seen the most recent data of the most recent weeks, and it's also holiday skewed, but mortgage applications didn't necessarily increase as much as people might have expected when things got down to 6, right? And so that could be seasonality. It could be, it could also be kind of like a disbelief. Is this really going to happen? Is this going to stay here? Like, is this a real thing? But I do think that if we see it, I think it's going to take some time to see a steady. If the rates stay and hover that 6%, like 6.5 to 6, I think that we'll see more increased buyer demand by that, because I think people say, okay, we can accept this. But again, I just think it really depends on people's sense of the sentiment of the economy, of their job security and that sort of thing. So I think that's what's going to be the news story in this first quarter, is going to be how many layoff headlines do we see, right? How's that going to affect sentiment, that sort of thing. So yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I feel like definitely we know that everything's 5% is the magic number. But I think that anything ticking closer to 6 is also going to stimulate demand, as long as the economy stays generally, stable for a lot of people. People in stable jobs, people that feel. That's my thought on it.
So, yeah, I feel like there's always kind of a catch up in our psychology, right? When the interest rates were in the 2s, when they hit the 3s, people are like, that's high. That's really high. I think I want to wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
When they went from 3s to 4s, people were still like, 4 is extremely high, because they're so used to the 2s not too long ago. And
Yeah.
I think we had that in the last like 2 years or so, where people needed to kind of catch up, and there was this like FOMO after, like, I should have locked something in when it was in the 2s. I should have locked something in.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Should have locked something in was in the 6s when it hit 8, right? And so I think now, like, because the interest rates move so rapidly, and again, almost unprecedented, for decades, right? It moves so quickly that people's mentalities weren't able to catch up. And now that we've kind of been living in this space for some time, a move down to the 6s feels like a release in some ways for people. Like, hey,
Right.
mentally things are trending the right way. And so I think that does have some type of impact, I think, coming into this next year. And again, if I were a betting man, I don't know if I would bet on this year, first part of it, but I know a lot of people are projecting that maybe towards the end of this year, early next year, at some point, the interest rates will continue to go down. And so we're hopeful on that. And I think what it does for a lot of people is, hey, if affordability is tight, given even the 6.5 interest rate, people are maybe still out there shopping, knowing that somewhere down the line, in the foreseeable future, rates are going to get better, that they may be able to withhold and withstand some of the monthly payment kind of shock, so that, maybe in a few months, maybe in a year, who knows, they can refinance and see some meaningful drops in their payment. And again, I don't know if we sell that. I think it's still a betting person's game to go out with the banner and say, hey, rates are going to go lower, right? But
right.
It's safe to say that potentially they will go lower over a given time, right? And everyone's projecting on that, and the other thing I realize people are really projecting, and a lot of this comes from my conversation with people in title insurance.
Mm-hmm.
They live and die by openings and closings, right? They're looking at openings and closings every day and projecting and trying to project how much they're going to see this year in terms of business. And I remember one of the more conservative people that I talked to, or conservative companies that I follow, they had a projection this year that business transactions would increase by somewhere in the neighborhood of like 9 to 10%, on this year, kind of nationwide. And so I think that's a positive thing. I think it's a really, really positive thing that things are getting better in terms of maybe transaction count, or at least by projection, And so,
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. No. And I think that title companies, they have to make pretty large decisions based on their projections. So there's no, like, quote, hopium in their projections, right? Like they're trying to, they're looking at, like, conservatively, because they don't want to have to, make drastic cuts, because you don't want to overcorrect. And when you project too optimistically, the tendency is to have to overcorrect at some point, lay off more people than you want to lay off, because you're losing money at a rate you don't want to, and then that's not good for the morale of the company. And so you want to do is, like, predict as conservatively as possible, and then if anything, you'll end up having to hire a little bit or do things. But if you predict too optimistically, so I think these companies may have mistakenly been too optimistic in the past, but I think they're probably going to try to be as accurate as they possible in a conservative area, and do things that way. So I think that's good to hear from that standpoint, because we know that people who want to keep everybody motivated and excited tend to, like, have a little more, especially people that are publicly traded, who want to show, some good projections to and keep that sentiment high, might sometimes be a little bit even unintentionally optimistic, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that's good to hear, and I feel optimistic that we're going to see more transactions and there'll be more quote unquote earning potential. Most two ways, because one, I think you know there's going to be a lot more agents who are not going to make it into this year. I think we already saw for the first time memberships are way down for realtors. Now they can jump back in anytime, so it's not like it's definite. But I do think that there's going to be more transactions for less agents this year. So I think that's from a if I did nothing at all, I should be able to do more deals this year. But hopefully, most agents will also take advantage of the fact that if they work smarter toward the trends of what things are happening, that's what we really want to help people with. They should definitely be able to outperform the benchmarks in our industry as well. But I do feel very optimistic about 2024 as far as real estate agent income potential. Right, I do feel very optimistic there. Even with the Sitzer Burnett case and these other cases challenging commissions, any long-term effects of that won't hit really probably this year, probably be in following years. So I think that's also not going to, but I think you should prepare for those following years this year and how you do your business practices. But yeah, I think 2024 should be good for that. I'm not making any predictions for pricing or home prices or interest rates. I can't say that I think home prices are going to continue to go up. I'm also not saying they're going to come crashing down. I just don't think that's going to be a boon to agents' business. I don't think, because that sort of has been the past trend since 2012 or so. Every year there's more earning potential, just alone that prices of homes are going up. And since our commissions are based on prices, there was more earning potential almost every year, just by that alone. But I think that necessarily might not drive it this year. But I think number of home sales, I can't see it going down for sure. I can only see it going up.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Matt, for 2024? What do we have in store for Circa?
Yeah. Well, I think I think we want to build. This is a large part of your influence and so much praise I can give you there as far as the culture part of things. Trying to put some structure and some sort of what do you call it, fuel in the fire, so to speak, of that organic culture we've already been seeing, right? We've seen a lot of, like we said, agents coming together, these sort of tribes forming and things like that. Not to the exclusivity, like not like cliques, because cliques would be something I never would support, but tribes as far as people who have generally aligned interests or generally aligned needs in their businesses that have kind of come together to work together. And they've done it in a very inclusive way, meaning no one's left out of that. So I think what we want to do is right, bolster that sort of what we're already seeing develop organically and do it more intentionally and put some structure, right? So the tribe. So maybe you can speak more to that. It's kind of your brainchild baby, so I'd like to hear you speak to that.
Yeah. This past year we did experiment a little bit and had a couple iterations on tribes and really, Matt and I both, you and I both, right? We have a pretty high value on leadership, within ourselves and growing as leaders within and of ourselves, so that other people can benefit, let's say, from our leadership. And we've had a pretty high priority on like the culture and especially one of like support and care.
Right.
And so this year, I think we have a couple of different ways to kind of work that out. And one of the main ones is tribes. I think, we don't have the nomenclature. We used cohorts for a little bit, to kind of continue on the Circa C kind of theme. But the idea is tribes. And it really is, Circa being a platform for tribes and for people to come together kind of meaningfully, to one, get better at what they do for sure. But also just have an overall quality of life that's better. And so the idea behind these tribes is, hey, let us like give you some kind of general guidelines on how it may be to bring a tribe together or what kind of tribe needs to come together. And then you kind of take it and run. And the tribe really has two kind of fold benefits, right? It's one, you get to kind of band with other people within Circa or other agents that maybe have same interests, and you band together and create a tribe. And when I talk about tribes, I'm talking about some type of interest that you have, some type of hobby, some type of lifestyle thing that you enjoy, that you can kind of, again, band together with other agents on. And so it could take the form of golf. Like I'm thinking about my own golf tribe, right? And starting one within Circa. So golf is one of them. Pickleball, let's say, is a huge one right now. Or if you are a wine connoisseur like yourself, Matt, you want to explore wine more and learn more about it. It has that kind of like community effect within Circa. And then the second part of it is really, this then becomes a community that you can invite other people into that may or may not be a part of Circa. Maybe it's a client of yours. Maybe it's your neighbors. Maybe it's just people that you're socially around that you can bring into the tribe to kind of, again, interact and find a community given the common kind of hobby or interest.
Right.
And for us then as agents, what it does is it naturally expands our circles. Right, it naturally expands who we're shoulder to shoulder with, and I think in that kind of grouping or that kind of community, there's a natural growth that happens. There's a natural exchange of ideas and diversity that happens, and then it's potentially for you if you're looking to grow your circles and have a bigger SOI and see more business. It's a very natural way to do that. And it's almost like a non-salesy way to do that, right? And to just naturally connect. So tribes is kind of something we're really excited about. I think we naturally do that at Circa, but we wanted to give a little bit of a format and guidance to it. And then for us, again, Matt and I, like we love working with agents. We love working with leaders, right? And so it gives us an opportunity to work with the people that would lead these tribes. And give some guidance to it and help, provide some development opportunities too, in terms of the leadership part of it, in terms of the soft skills part of it, and really excited about that. I think that for me has been something, as well as you, Matt, that we connected on, right? When we started as something that we find really meaningful in our own lives, and so I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, no, and I just want to add to that, the relatability, like what I learned on early in my career was that the more people you can relate to and that can relate to you, right, the more common ground you can find with as many people as possible, the more value and success you're going to have, right? The more value you're going to bring, more success, and that personal growth that comes with just experience and getting out there and talking to people and learning new things. That's the biggest, I think, multiple in people's success, right? It's not the tactics you learn, how to shake a hand properly and those kind of things. It's more the actual, who are you? What do you bring? Do you bring experience and a richness of experience and knowledge to the table, right? That's what's going to really improve. And I've always had a dream of helping people as much as possible with that, because I just saw how it helped my life and career. And then I think the other part is leadership, like you mentioned, is that, you can either sell people, right, or you can lead people, and to me, I feel like you have a much better relationship with your clients when they look to you as a leader in transactions, rather than selling. And I think you become a leader within a transaction, right? Like I try to take leadership within a transaction. I take the other agent almost under my wing more than I try to be combative or be adversarial. I'd rather try to help them to help their client help me. I can't sacrifice my fiduciary duty. I can't help them help their clients, but I can definitely help them to see things the right way to get this transaction done with the terms that we agreed to, with as little drama as possible. Show leadership with the escrow officer that might be having a bad day and not is making a bigger deal out of something smaller. The lender, just taking leadership in a transaction, I think is definitely a better way to go. So I think that the leadership you can develop in yourself by being around other leaders and watching it. You mentioned this before. You catch things a lot, right? You can go to training and learn things, but it's better to catch them. It's better to be around somebody, around people, and catch mannerisms, catch philosophies, catch mindsets, right? So I think having those type of opportunities for our agents to get involved that way, I think is really going to be powerful for them. And so I encourage anybody that's feeling like, maybe I don't feel as social as I should be, or maybe I don't have the growth mindset I need to have, I encourage just get involved, and it'll start developing naturally. So just the only thing you have to do is show up, right? And everything else will take its place after that.
That's right. Yeah, there's also a lot I think coming up with Circa. There's a training calendar that may already be out, I think, for this quarter. Just wanted to key people into that. And also in February, we are going to be taking another cultural connect trip, and this time to Las Vegas. It is probably the hottest place people are moving to from LA and the LA area.
Literally,
Um,
or
I think so. Yeah, exactly. And then so we'll give you some details on that coming up soon.
yeah.
And then man, what was the other thing, Matt? What else is coming up here with Circa?
Well, yeah, for years and years, everybody's talked about systems, playbooks, that type of thing, and there's definitely a lot of them out there. You can Google it and find 100 different real estate playbooks, and a lot very similar. But I think what we have not delivered on as well as I want to deliver on ever, like I still, is really the sort of playbook for a real high level client experience for your clients as agents, along with sort of high level systems that kind of allow for better relationship building throughout, from the lead generation, so to speak, part all the way through into closing, and how to do each department. I look at real estate business as 7 departments, right? It's prospecting, it's follow up, it's presenting, it's servicing, both buyer and seller, it's negotiating contracts, then it's managing escrows, and then it's post close activities. So I just think those 7 different phases, each one has just a huge amount of how to's and how, like, technique, strategies, ways of doing things, right? But we want to make sure that we have a real comprehensive way of breaking each of those down, and how to do it right, and having a very accessible way to our agents. And so that's what we're doubling down this year, is to really find and deliver on that in a very tangible way. And so that's what I'm excited about, is we have it all. It just needs to be very accessible to our agents. And I feel like that's where that accessibility sometimes is suffer. Like, where do I find that? Where is that? How do I keep that with me all the time? How do I stay mindful and remember to do these things? How do I implement? How do I execute? And I think that's what we really just want to, make sure in 2024 we get it right for everybody. So
that's awesome. Yeah, and we're developing that, internally, but also with some conversations with some of you, and getting some feedback on best practices. The other thing we're doing is we're growing, right? We're still growing, and we're really committed to growing our agent, mix with people who are great and good humans, right? And so we've been at the recruiting table, a lot of times in the last few weeks, even, Matt, and I think there's been moments where we've said no to agents because we're really serious about bringing on the right people, irregardless of production, the people that have the potential to get really active in real estate, but that first and foremost have the culture, right, and the cultural fit, and they're good people. And so want to, again, like, kind of key you into, we're still doing these kind of chef dinner, omakase type gatherings for agents. And really, we're asking our agents to key us into who is good out there, right? And so you're going to get a call, if you haven't already, from one of our staffers, Mike, who will be asking, hey, were they good to work with? Was the agent on the other side of the transaction that you recently closed good to work with? Would you say that they'd fit well here at Circa? And we would go and approach them, right, and try to get them in. So just look out for that. And if you come across anyone, whether you've done a transaction or not, that you feel like might be a really good fit for Circa, please let us know. And we want to grow in that organic fashion with people that are really good, and who you say is good has a big kind of bearing on that. So that's another thing that we're doing this year, and it's working for us. I think, what was the number, Matt? Like 70 or 70+% of our agents who've stayed have been referral agents, and it's like no surprise, right? That's kind of the same number with us as real estate agents working with our clients, that 70% or more a lot of times have been referral business. And so yeah, we're super serious about that. And so you'll see more, kind of dinners scheduled around that and activity scheduled around that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I love about it is that we're not exclusive in a snobbish way. We're inclusive as far as the people we want to bring in. We just want to make sure that the people we bring in are themselves inclusive and bring a good culture, right? It's not like we're looking at production or anything that's more appearance or superficial. It's more just, hey, are you going to buy into what we're doing culturally? It's really, are you going to buy into what we're doing? And if you are, then you're welcome. And I think that's where we feel like sometimes people, we feel like they might not really buy into what we're doing, and that's where we feel like there's no point in pursuing that relationship. I mean, people can do well in real estate and not be that way, but I think that what we're trying to do is find the people who we think make the industry better in the way they build relationships in a organic and giving way, in a generous way, in a gratitude filled way. And so really making sure that they and definitely want to be really good at what they do, want to be good at helping clients and being good at being a realtor and take it seriously in that regard. And it's so I'm excited about 2024. I think we're going to see a lot of growth internally, but also a lot of great additions to our team from a staff component and from a support level, because support is always going to be our number one focus and priority, right? So
absolutely. And maybe the last thing I'll keep people into that's coming up pretty soon is our business track again. And I think we're going to do, some of this is going to be in person, but also online. And we're trying to figure out the mechanics of that. And so if you're someone who's not specifically in the Orange County, LA area, but you're one of our agents, would love for you to consider this. And really what the business track is designed for, it really is to help you kind of focus in on your goals for this coming year, and then to create a plan of execution around how to meet those goals. And so if you're at all interested in that, we're going to be running that again. I think, is it in towards the end of this month, Matt? I think it's
I want to say it's the 23rd and 24th. Let me look at that and just make sure. But yeah, it's definitely towards the end. It is the 23rd is the first day, 24th. So it's a Tuesday and Wednesday, January 23rd, 24th.
Yeah, if you're interested in that, we'll have a sign up for it. Would highly encourage you to attend that. And again, I'm attending it for the second time because this is our second time running it, but I feel like I'm gonna get more value probably from the second time. So yeah, look out for that. And again, I'm super excited, Matt. This is the wood dragon year. You happen to be a dragon, right?
I am a dragon. Yeah, there you go.
Rooster. Matt and I are very compatible, right? As business partners, and then this year is supposed to be really, really, prosperous, so to say, for the Chinese zodiac thing. And so really excited about it. Looking forward to it. If there's anything we can do to help you, or a conversation you'd like to have about your business, or anything really, just let us know. We're always here for you. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. Happy New Year, everyone. And yeah, looking forward to 2024 and just excited to get together with you guys soon and help you plan your year and grow. So we'll see you guys soon.
All right.
Here. All right.
Yeah. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Happy New Year.